Hello everyone. So today we're going to be talking about transmasculinity, and we had seen a small beginning of this the last week. So I suggest you go see last week's video and the video on gender expression so that you understand today's video better. Coming to our topic at hand, what is transmasculinity? So we'll look into what it means before getting into my story of self-realization. So coming to my story, coming to the definition of transmasculinity, it is usually connected with people who are assigned female at birth. So that is afab. Assigned female at birth is afab, and the opposite of that is assigned male at birth, is amab, amab and afab. So I was assigned female at birth, but then I relate more or identify more to the masculine range of the spectrum of gender expression, and we talked about that spectrum in the video about gender expression. I'll be putting the link to that video as one of the cards. So coming to transmasculinity, just because you identify as transmasculine, it doesn't mean that you need to be a man. Like you need to self-define or think of yourself as a man. Not all transmasculine people identify with being a man. So being transmasculine is different from being a trans man. So those two are two different subjects which may or may not be linked to one another. That solely depends on you. So when I say that I am a transmasculine enby person, it means that I don't exactly fit into the binaries of man, woman. I'm simply me. And when it comes to gender expression, I identify more to the androgynous and masculine part of the spectrum, but then not the extreme ends either. So yeah, it is a subjective thing, and this is the case for me, and it might not be the case for all other transmasculine NB people, or simply transmasculine people. So a lot of other people who are gender non-conforming or gender fluid or genderqueer or non-binary might be transmasculine. Of course, that might not be the case for everyone. Some of them might be, but then it's not like you need to fall into these identities to be transmasculine. It doesn't mean that. If you feel that you are simply transmasculine and you identify with being masculine and you were assigned female at birth, then you can simply be transmasculine, if that fits you right. Coming to other parts of this identity, transmasculine people, like other transgender people, might or might not be dysphoric and might or might not transition to a more masculine physique. So it's not that all transmasculine people or all trans men or all transgender people for that case, because transmasculine, trans women, trans feminine, trans men, all these fall under the transgender umbrella. And as you might already know, or if you don't know, you can understand it now, that not all transgender people are dysphoric, and not all transgender people transition or cross dress or whatever it is that they find suitable or comfortable for themselves. Now, coming to my story of self-realization. So this chapter of my life kind of started after my realization of being NB or non-binary or genderqueer, whatever you choose to call it. So it was after that realization, but then after that realization, there were still parts of those inherent transphobia remaining in me. And it's not like it was completely eradicated with one stroke. It was a slow process over a period of about 1/3 of a year. During that period, I started expressing myself more freely, because since I accepted myself as NB, my self-expression also became more free, and a lot of the inhibitions were taken out of the equation, and it was just me being me. So because of that, it became harder and harder for me to ignore that masculine part of me that was trying to get outside and express itself as it is, as true as it is, rather than wearing a mask just to satisfy the people around me for no reason. Because I'm someone who believes that if you yourself are not happy, then you can't make others happy. You need to be happy and safe and healthy yourself first before you can do the same for anybody else. So I was at a point where I was struggling to make myself happy, you can say that. And that was me struggling with my transphobia, even after realizing that I, being non-binary or genderqueer, I too fall under that spectrum to some extent. I too fall under that umbrella of being transgender. But then, of course, research on my part was going on, and then I had already come across the term transmasculine during my research for the terms non-binary and genderqueer. But then it took some time for me to reach that self-acceptance, to accept myself for who I am. And during this time, I was also struggling with my pronouns. Pronouns were also something that I was literally like, you have things kind of completely strewn around your whole room without any idea of what should be put where. It was that kind of a situation for me. It was quite a mess in my head, especially with this transphobia interfering with a lot of my self-expression and things like that. But then as my self-expression got stronger, it got to a point where I couldn't hide myself or hold back myself from accepting myself anymore. And I couldn't stomach being addressed as she anymore, because that that's simply not that was simply not who I am. Even now, that's not who I am. But then being transmasculine, I have never got the desire or the want to be addressed as he, because that too doesn't feel like who I am. I have never felt like a man. I have never wanted to be seen as a man. Yes, I do want to be seen as more masculine, and being a man feels like a better alternative to stomach than being a woman. Yes, I do agree, but for me, as I'm not faulting anybody else, but then that doesn't mean that I have had the desire or want to be a man. then again, I'm not saying that I'm completely not dysphoric. I'm not saying that. I do have my issues with dysphoria. But then he never felt like who I am. And that's when I completely stopped using she, and then I completely shifted to using they, them, theirs. And that felt just right. It gave me a sort of peace of mind that this is who you are. And I'm happy being addressed this way because it feels like the person who is addressing me with they is addressing the me rather than somebody else. And that was something really relieving for me. Really relieving and really respectful and really affirmative. Yeah, in conclusion, it really made me happy to be seen as who I really am. And this might not be similar to the stories of a lot of other transmasculine people, but then this is simply my story of my self-realization and how I have been living with that identity. And as I have accepted myself, I am also openly expressing myself a lot more, and I think I'm in a much healthier place by accepting myself and not inhibiting myself. So yeah, that's it for my journey towards transmasculinity. If you have any doubts, do leave them in the comments and I'll be addressing them in coming videos or replying to your comments within there itself. So, and if you have any more topics that you would like for me to address in the future videos, feel free to put that in the comment box too, because I'm making a list of it so that I don't forget any of your suggestions. So let's see with a new topic in the next week. Thank you.